Hello there, welcome to the Political Checkmate, and today I'm going to do something new on this channel. Today I'm going to explain why taxation is theft, and I'm going to checkmate arguments justifying them. Before I begin, I have just passed the 100 subscriber benchmark on my YouTube channel. I would like to thank all my kind fans who have helped this channel grow, and I would like to thank the friend of this channel, Theron Thurleason, for the recommendation and the thumbnail for the video. I would like to thank all of you. I could not have done this without you. Now, on to the video. The way I'm going to do this is by first summarizing 3 analogies in this wonderful philosophical paper in the Southern Journal of Philosophy called Taxation, Forced Labor, and Theft. Why taxation is on a par with forced labor by Adam D. Moore. This video will be using a bunch of analogies that will build a chain of logic. In the first analogy is the violinist argument, which goes, imagine you wake up one morning in a hospital bed and your kidneys have been connected to a famous unconscious violinist. It turns out that the Society of Music Lovers have kidnapped you and have connected you to this violinist in order to filter the rare blood type you both share. They must do this for 9 months, and only then will the violinist recover and no longer need your assistance. The hospital director apologizes for what the Society of Music Lovers have done to you, but insists that the violinist is a person with a right to life, and therefore you cannot unplug yourself from him without killing him and violating his right to life. I would additionally add a possible scenario where the violinist could stop this medical condition by simply dieting and exercising, but chooses not to. What we can first logically derive from this analogy is that it's wrong to use force against someone even though it saves a life, because you have no moral obligation to do it, even though it would be pretty heroic to do that task. The second thing we can derive from this analogy is that it's wrong to steal a good percentage of time from a person with taxes. It could hypothetically take over a third of your working hours. The third thing we could logically derive from this analogy is that it's wrong to force someone if the beneficiary could do it themselves instead of forcing someone else. In the second analogy, person X is on a spaceship that needs constantly getting new holes that threaten the spaceship's safety. Everyone on the spaceship needs 4 hours to fix each hole. If person X decides not to work, it forces another person to fix the hole, which causes many people on the spaceship to be angry and demand that person X fixes the hole, or else they're kicked off the spaceship. What we can derive from this analogy is that it's wrong to force others to do that task, even though the person X is responsible for that task, but it's not morally wrong to threaten person X to fix the hole, or else getting kicked out the spaceship because person X has a moral responsibility to fix the hole. And a third analogy, we got a 25-year-old living with his parents, and he's got a fully stocked fridge of snacks and does a bunch of gaming all day long. His parents decide one day to cut him off and make him get a job. What we can derive from this analogy is that we may have a connection with the beneficiary, but that does not force us to give them something. Okay, now that we build a chain of logic of why taxation is theft because it is wrong to use force, now that begs the question, how exactly are things like income or property taxes theft? The reason why it is theft is because it takes a significant amount of your working hours by generally over a third of it. Now that we explain why taxation is theft, let's get into 7 counter-arguments. The first one is the argument that we benefit from taxes. Just because we benefit from taxes does not justify it, because if you get kidnapped and put into a cage, the kidnappers provide security and food, it still does not justify the action of force. The second argument is the democracy argument. The argument fails because democracy does not justify force, because you can't vote for a minority of the population to become donors for the violinist analogy. The third argument is the public goods claim, such as cops of schools or lighthouses. This argument fails because it simply assumes that government is needed, even though private organizations or charities can do this. In fact, libertarian scholars have written extensively on how the private sector could do all of this. The fourth argument is the think of the children claim. A response of this would be the parents dealing with this issue, and if they die, they could have written a policy or what happens next for the kid, such as sending them to a different family member, or if their child was abandoned, a charity organization could deal with it. The fifth argument is the social contract argument. This argument fails because no one actually signs a contract, and that contract constantly changes. Plus, many people have never used some of these things that taxes provide. The sixth argument is that you can leave. A response to that would be there is an exit tax for leaving the United States of America, and many lands are owned by the government. The seventh and final argument is that the government helped make your labor productive, therefore it has the right to tax you. My response would be not really, because these functions that the government has done could have been done privately, and also one could argue that the government has actually made us poorer. A study from the Journal of Economic Growth did a cost-benefit analysis and found that if we had stuck towards the 1950s style regulation, households would have had over $200,000 in household income. Another study from the National Bureau of Economic Research looked at the renaissance of fiscal research 10 years after the financial crisis and found that a spending multiplier has a 0.6 to 1 effect. And while for tax changes multiplier, the literature found a -2 to -3 effect. A multiplier, if you don't know, is simply how much GDP would increase or decrease each additional government purchase. A multiplier of 1 means that the government spending creates no additional value in the private sector activity, so basically taking resources from the private sector to the public sector. But a multiplier less than 1 means government spending shrink private activity, slowing total economic output, which basically means that government spending and tax changes simply decrease economic output, according to the National Bureau of Economic Research study. Finally, this chart shows that the purchasing power of the dollar from 1913 to 2021 shows a massive decline in purchasing power of the single dollar, losing 96.3% of its value. I could go on and on, but if you want to learn more of why taxation is theft, I highly recommend you to read this philosophical paper I cited earlier. This is the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and please donate to my Patreon so I can make more videos and have your video requests checkmated. And thanks for watching, and have a nice day.